Oh, you want me to one take another podcast?
Well, I would hope so.
Because that's what we've been doing every time, dude. Just sit down, one take, go. Podcast gold.
Who are you telling? I'm here each time.
And you see it. Most people don't get to see it because we don't have a video camera set up. Most people just get to hear it. You get to see greatness in action, poetry in motion.
Yeah, maybe we have to set like a video camera up, but it's kind of
Only if the
corny,
people
right?
want it.
Yeah, who would really? We're just sitting at a desk.
Hardly.
It's like a desk. It's a surface.
We're in the podcast studio.
Uh,
Look, man, I see you took your braids out. Last remnants of the Spain trip are gone. Physically.
yeah, I was gonna say, as far as remnants go, but I think it's since, as we said, it informs every decision you make thereafter. There's traces or whatever.
See, I feel like a new person. No
Really?
cap.
Really?
A little bit. It's like, so if for some reason you didn't listen to the third episode, this is the fourth episode, I believe. Me and old Yavid went to Spain and did the running of the bulls. This centuries-old tradition. And we're home now. I definitely feel like it changed me as a person. It changed my outlook on life.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, which I pretty much say about everything. But when I say that, I basically mean that, well, I'll just use the word that I don't get to use too often, ineffable.
Ineffable. Can we get
Which
a
is
definition?
funny because it kind of could be a counterpoint to a censored swear word, but it really just means not able to be described in words.
Okay.
Which is pretty corny of a meaning, but
I would agree with you that the running of the bulls and the entire San Fermin festival, which is what the running of the bulls takes place during, was an ineffable experience.
adjective, yeah. So, same. I think those types of things are, people should do them and should do them more than once. It doesn't have to be the bull thing. Could be, there are a lot of experiences that are similar, and I think they achieve maybe similar types of results, although there are unique things about each, and it's really hard to break it down, thus the word ineffable. But it's not about really facing mortality. It's not about those types of things. It's a little bit more complex than that. It's not just the mortality, right? Because you can face mortality in a car accident. It doesn't necessarily
Right.
change you.
Well, because the majority of people that do the running of the bulls do not get hurt. A vast majority of the people.
Yes.
And it's like the vast majority of people driving a car don't get hurt. Or the vast majority of people shooting a gun or whatever you want to apply it to don't get hurt. So it's like, is running with the bulls any more of a coming face to face with your own mortality than getting in your car and driving to work?
No, so it's not. Yeah, it's not that. There's a lot of other things, right? It seems like there's a lot of other things in play there. I think certain people, I can't remember offhand, but categorize it as awe-inspiring. Not the bulls, but things in nature. So there are certain sights that you see that inspire awe. There are certain feats and certain things that inspire awe. And those, I feel like that always has to be there Like facing mortality is just one characteristic. I feel like
Right.
there has to be some type of awe.
What do you think the awe was with the bulls? Was it just seeing the bull?
That's what a lot of people, I think, especially in our culture, don't understand is when you're hauling ass next to 1,200 pound
All muscle.
just all
Bulls.
bulls running 4-minute miles. Regardless of how you feel about your politics and your beliefs, it is something else. It's something out there. It's really laughable and stupid to try to place a judgment on it, or have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
I'm not really for all that. Like, for example, when I tried to go into the military, I didn't care about the politics of our country. I wanted to go somewhere and go to war.
You weren't doing it because
No,
you were really riding
I
for,
wasn't.
would it have been Clinton at the time? Bush? You were like,
come on, I'm not that old. But yeah, I actually disagreed, right, with a lot of the things Bush was doing. It didn't matter, though. I kind of wrote about it in the book, to be a part of that group doing whatever it was we were doing, even though it's not necessarily, justified, moral, whatever it may be. It's really annoying to get that type of judgment or assessment on it, especially from other types of cultures, which seem kind of like an authoritarian. It seems a bit strange for another culture to judge.
yeah.
One that is older, even.
It's like anytime, because, I did a lot of research before we went, just watching YouTube videos. And anytime you look at the comments, it's almost all negative. Oh, I hope the bull wins, or this shame on the people doing this, or even when I was looking, because when we were there, we found out that Josh Norman, who was an NFL football player, was also there at the same time as us, posting, pictures on his Instagram, and a lot of people, kind of doing a shame on him and a shame on the whole event because he participated in it. But it's like, this event, well, first of all, the people saying shame on you, I've never seen a Spaniard doing it.
Yeah.
It's all outsiders.
Which is strange because without getting into any of the politics, which we can if you want, but without getting into any of it, you're, someone from a whole other life.
Right.
Just laying down the axe on a people that you have no idea about.
Right. Not even from the same continent.
Yeah. And to me, that just reeks of, it's a bit, it's not conflicting. It's almost a bit, it's a pretty oxymoronic, I guess, because in no way do they support or kind of, whose horn is that?
Probably the person we heard get into that car accident right before we started recording.
Yeah, that's weird.
They heard us.
Okay.
They're like, "Oh, y'all are trying to podcast."
But yeah, it's strange to attribute. There's a few strange things about it that I don't necessarily understand. The first one being it started in the 14th century. There's probably 10 Spaniards running down the street with some bulls.
That's what it was.
Hundreds of
just trying to guide the bull to where they needed it to go.
Right, and then it's very difficult to battle with as far as support for it, because you're not supporting anything by going, because they were doing it hundreds of years before we were alive, and they'll continue to do it hundreds of years after. So you wonder how you're supporting it, because you clearly can't be supporting it by showing up, because
you don't have to pay.
They did well. Also, it's not an organization you have to support financially, but also they don't care who comes, right? I mean, proof of that would be that they've done it for hundreds of years without the attendance that they had.
Right.
I mean, just judging from for example, Hemingway's Sun Also Rises. It wasn't the million-person festival that it was even in the 20s. So they were doing this for hundreds of years without any fanfare or
Right.
acclaim. They weren't putting out flyers for this shit. So to say you support it by participating in it is a very slippery slope, because guilt by participation, no one is not guilty of, right?
Right. It'd be like saying, "Oh, I have Nike on right now. I'm using an Apple iPhone." Don't both of those companies use child labor in Asian countries?
If you could go even crazier, right? If you shop at Walmart, you're supporting genocide, several wars across the globe. Aside from the child labor, the mistreatment of women and children.
Right.
Yeah, guilt by participation doesn't make any sense, because we all, even as we sit here and talk, are participating in hundreds of things that we just choose to ignore, So anyone that has that kind of idea where, someone is guilty for participating, there are cases where that's true, but you can't just shoehorn that together like arbitrarily like that. It doesn't make much sense, especially when all the evidence says otherwise, such as it's their culture, it's their thing, they do it, they've always done it, they'll probably always do it until they don't want to anymore, which is kind of where I sit with it. If they decide one day that they don't want to do it, then they won't.
Right.
No one is twisting their arm. And my feeling about it is, it's kind of cool that I'm alive in a time where they're doing this, so I can have the chance to, especially, with an airplane and things like that, or a boat, to go over there. 150 years ago, we couldn't even done it. We wouldn't even have known. You know
Right.
what I mean? It would be a slim chance of even participating, but the point is, it's not up to the rest of the world to police the world and try to align everything they do with their own values.
Because I'm sure there's several cultures that are doing things that a person probably wouldn't agree with, that you don't even know about.
You know what's crazy? Don't even say, we don't even have to go to culture. You can go to your own family, right? So
Right.
if you're guilty by participation and you're someone's aunt, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, whatever your family's doing, you're guilty of.
Right.
So, for example, if you have an uncle who's in prison for homicide, you're an
support
accessory,
murder.
right? You're supportive. You're a supporter of murder because you're related to this person, because you're participating in the family. And that might sound stupid and might sound like a, thought experiment that is just overthinking it. But it's like, if you go to a family reunion, you support every decision made by everyone
Your
there.
family.
And that thinking is so stupid, you can't even really peel it apart, because the stupidity runs so deep. But what I think about it is, if they decide to end it one day, then that's on them. It's their thing, It's what they created. It's not, other people should not get involved and say it's really annoying when they try to, put the judgment down on other people, because they're overlooking the whole idea that they are just essentially victims of circumstance. So the only reason you believe what you believe is because you were born this year, of this kind of person in this country. So all these people with these beliefs, if they were 25 years older and born in Indonesia, they would not even have the same thought process that we
Right.
have. It's only that we come from this real place of privilege, as far as, okay, we're American. A lot of our lives are pretty convenient compared to a lot of other places in the world. We're born into, the idea that we can even have this kind of forum is just
About another.
bleeds privilege, right? I mean, anyone that you might be hearing, you said this NFL player was there. He posted something on a social media and then got blowback. Just think about those things. An NFL player is in Spain. Okay, he's an NFL player, first off. His prestige and the reason why people know him is because he throws a ball around for stadiums of people all over the world.
Right.
So right now your mind should already be blown. The second thing is he can get over to Spain and participate in this 14th century cultural thing that he does, right? Your mind should by now be just collapsing. The third thing is he can put his cell phone up while he's doing it and document it for him to everyone across the world, and then it gets picked up by news, television, all these
Immediately.
things. Your mind should be melting even further. And then other people that are linked through all of these same devices can have an opinion about it. To me, that's just the stupidest and funniest type of, it sounds like a Kurt Vonnegut satire.
Right.
Or like a Voltaire satire. But it's all true, and it's so sad. If it's sad that there are people like that think like that, but my point was that is so much privilege in one, and so much luck and things that people fail to get rid of their cognitive dissonances and their confirmation biases. It's the same when they, we talked about it before, when they teleport their morals. They're a 19-year-old activist, white middle American activist in America, right? And they teleport their morals back to Germany of 1944 and talk about what they would have done.
Right.
It's just like, you can't anthropomorphize and time travel. So, because a lot of it is about animals, right? Well, animals, you can't assign the human feelings to animals. They do have some in common, but you don't know
Right. How
what
a
it
bull
is.
feels.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that we should
You can make a guess.
mistreat them. Yeah, you can have guesses, and some people do know, but the point is you're anthropomorphizing. You're saying you know how this shit goes pretty much across all platforms, cultures, countries, people, animals, persons, places, things. People even do it with God, right? Then when they talk about gods, they talk about kindness and anger and jealousy and guilt and things like that. They anthropomorphize human feelings onto gods, things they call gods. And whether they exist or not doesn't really matter. What you're saying is you know how God thinks.
It'd be like an ant thinking it knows how we think and feel in a way.
Yeah, it's crazy because, but then, I can get that because it's kind of instinctual, It's like a little habit, whatever. But when people start time traveling with their morals, I'm just lost. I just give up. I'm like, yo, we're not time.
Hindsight. You can't.
Yeah. It's like what you really would have done was got gassed.
Or
you would have been killed, or you would have been
went
a
along
Nazi,
with it.
or you would have went along with it. First off, you're a pussy. There's no way you would have done anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're on 15 medications because you claim you can't even go outside without getting anxious. You wouldn't have been moral in the 40s, dude. So
Those were some badass dudes back then.
those were some dudes you wish you never meet and you never have met, right? But it's so easy to just, it's free. It's just like the comments and the judgments and the morality, or what they call virtue signaling, which is not by any means virtuous. It's free. And a virtue can't be free. A virtue has to involve risk by the person virtue is kind of displaying it or possessing it. A virtue is not free of charge. You can't just verbalize your virtue. There's no commitment, there's no action, there's no risk, and there's nothing on the line, which I guess is why it's called virtue signaling. But it's still a really annoying term because people think verbalizing things is displaying virtue, when really a parrot can verbalize something,
Right.
and it is not virtuous. Although that's almost a reverse anthropomorphization by me. But yeah, I don't know. I never really had an opinion about it. I thought it was so crazy that this was going on. Again, the only thing I could think of when we had started talking about it, which was just a few days before we left, is this is really cool that I'm alive in a time when this is even possible.
Right.
Bulls run through the fucking streets, goring and running over human beings.
It's cool.
It sounds like something you
can't find anything in America that comes even close.
No. And especially being there's nothing. And it is a deep cultural thing, and it's been hundreds of years, and our country's not as old, so we don't have that deep of a culture yet. But man, it is not a thing that you can describe, and it's definitely not a thing you can judge. And what's so weird to me is I didn't even think that much about it until I learned that people cared as much, which I should have known, because people are so bored and so privileged today that they find pretty much anything to have a point of view on, again, because it's free. But when I first did it, in my thinking, when people were kind of, they give humans the higher kind of, we're better than that, we're more moral, we're more we have the conscious, we are above that, we can ascend in civilization to be something that animals can't. I never really thought about it. The only thinking I did was, isn't the fact that we do it proof that we're not?
Right. It's not like, they're doing because the bull fighting that happens, just to clarify, is separate from the bull run that happens. It is the same bulls, but the fact that 20,000 people 2 times a day for 8 days straight pack out a stadium to watch it happen, that's, proof right there.
Well, before and after too, right? I mean, they fight bulls before the festival,
right,
after the festival.
It's a year-round thing.
It's their sport. It'd be like, what, LeBron, you know what I mean?
Or Tom Brady.
It'd be like, yes, it'd be like the Russians coming over here and saying, yo, LeBron, we're canceling basketball.
I think
or football would be a better one,
because people do get hurt,
right? So you're talking about brain injuries and things like that, and you're talking about,
and these are real humans,
right? Paralysis and death and
animals.
Things like that. So it'd be like someone from another country. If a
Spaniard came over and said, "Hey, you guys got to cut that out," we would
no
literally go to war.
Right.
I think literally there would be a war with whatever country tried to do it.
Yes. Well, it would be laughable, right?
Well, yeah.
But for some reason, we give ourselves an audience. That's strange. I don't know why they connect the bullfighting with the running. If they don't,
the only connection is that it is the same bulls that run that are in the bullfight.
Right. But if they weren't running, they would just be fought after they didn't run. Right?
And if there was no fight, they would just run and be sold to probably be slaughtered anyways. Because that's what the original running of the bulls was the farmer or the livestock salesman had to get his bull to the place where they sold him.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand. So that's what they would move them from their pen to the place where they would be sold. And now they're just moving them from the pen to the place where they fight.
The plaza.
So it's like, well, they would be moved to be sold and probably killed anyways.
Yeah. It's It's a real strange thing. The only thing that comes to my mind initially, after not giving it any thought, was the idea that we do it is, I'm taking we as in humans, is proof that we're not above it. And one day we will be. One day we're not going to do that. It's already moving in that direction. If you look at even what we were watching yesterday, Shaquille O'Neal and Yao Ming documentary.
Yeah.
If you even look at the things they were saying about each other,
Right.
they wouldn't even, that would not even fly today. And that was nothing. That was
Shaquille O'Neal is one of the
2002.
biggest entertainment personalities right now.
Right. So that stuff is going to go away eventually, and it might make it over there. But
I think, and I could just be tripping, but it seems, wouldn't be crazy to me if the actual bullfighting stopped at some point in our lifetime. But I feel like the running would never stop.
yeah, it does. It's so ceremonial. I was just thinking when we were talking how shitty and American and stupid it is for us to be talking about the actual bulls as if the whole festival itself is not like beyond magical.
The bull runs last maximum of 3 minutes every
At
day.
8 a.m.
And then the whole rest of the day, 24 hours for
Whole
8
rest
days.
of the week.
The whole
Yeah.
rest of the week is a party. Well,
A party is
fiesta.
yes, a fiesta, because party's not a way of putting it. We don't know what that means here. Is what
right.
was what I was coming to realize, and we talked about it a little bit when we were over there. You will find nothing like that here.
The closest thing, and I know you've been, I've never been, I've just been to New Orleans, but probably Mardi Gras would be the
Maybe.
closest.
It's not even. It's not.
But
even
it's
close.
not even close.
No. So that. It's a real drag that we talk about the political, the politics of bull running when we're talking about maybe the most in my life top 4 or 5 just insane things to be a part of.
Yeah.
I understand, and we talked about Hemingway a little bit, why he was so taken by it
Yeah.
and went. I believe he went 9 years, visited nine or 10 times. I'm not sure, but I
Especially-
understand completely.
Because for him, he had no sort of expectations for it.
And
Like,
no one knew about it yet.
We
really,
sort of
kinda.
had, you can watch a video and you go in with some sort of expectation. But
Right.
even still, my expectations and yours too were just shattered.
Anything that's another point. Watching videos means nothing, and we kind of talked about it in the past about life's not enough. The desensitization
Yeah.
of the human condition through the digital age. That's kind of what it's about. It's like, yeah, you stupid kids, you can type in whatever you want. You can memorize whatever Fuckopedia you want. You can look at any photo you want. You've never done anything.
Right.
And until you do, you will stop doing that. Proof that you do it is proof you haven't done that. You know what I mean? Because anyone that is just, and you don't have to agree and you don't have to do these things. And once again, it's not about the bulls. It's not about that. I mean, life in general. When you start participating, you stop having that kind of commentary. And the only people that have that kind of commentary are people that have never participated in it and probably will never.
Right.
And again, you don't have to agree with it.
Right. I don't want people to, get it twisted. Like, even though I went there and I did the running and I watched the bullfights, I don't think I'd ever watch a bullfight again. Because it felt just, I didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, just because I
Yeah.
went and did it and I'm saying that I believe that these Spanish people should be able to do it, doesn't mean that I fully support it.
Right.
The running, I do. I think the running's cool.
Yeah. Well, what my point was is you don't have to do it.
Right.
You don't, and like I find myself in the same kind of situation with politics when people talk about them. Liberal people or conservative people, it doesn't matter, because I kind of agree with both on certain things, and I'm sitting there, and sometimes you just feel like saying, you know, I don't disagree with you, but the shit you're saying is all wrong. Like, I don't have to agree with the overall arching idea. I may agree with you, but all of the points you're making are moot. They're just stupid.
Make you not want to agree with them.
It makes me have a disclaimer like, you know, I agree with you fundamentally, but everything you're saying is wrong.
Right.
It's just illogical, and it's nothing but confirmation bias, and it's nothing but just illogical fallacies and cognitive dissonance. And I find myself in the same position with these types of topics, because again, it's sad to sit and talk about this type of thing when it's describing the festival itself is not even possible. It's
It's almost sensory overload. We saw so much, and we were only there for half of it. We saw so much that I probably couldn't name everything that I saw if I tried.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you're just in it and you're there. It reminded me a lot of a few different things. Skydiving, which I like, fighting, which I tend to enjoy, scuba, which is probably my favorite thing to do. And I think a lot of these are, there's a book by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called Flow. A lot of people use the flow state, or they use the synonym, the synonym in the zone. I was in the zone.
Okay.
So music is kind of like that too. You know,
like when you're recording and writing and performing.
You're so present, right? Ram Dass has a book called Be Here Now, and that's what it kind of is. It's just it's you're participating in something you can't reach for your phone during.
Right.
So when you're scuba, you know what I mean? When you're doing your thing, you couldn't, even with the worst mind, have a fleeting thought.
Right.
You have to be there. When you jump out of the plane, your mind doesn't start
thinking about
drifting about the old lady. I wonder if she's hanging with Steve right now, or whatever the fuck you're thinking. I don't know what people think. I just watch movies, but you have to be present. And the festival was one of those things where you can't describe it too much. It's not really possible, and it's really shitty to sit and talk about the politics of animal doing whatever it is, you know, because it just it cheapens the whole idea, and that sucks. But my initial thinking with all of it was, I don't like when people overlook the idea that humans are animals.
Right.
It's one much more complex animal manipulating another one, just like in nature, which, you know what I mean? And again, my thinking on it is proof we do it is proof we're not very far beyond it.
Right.
You know, we aren't better than that.
We're just good at it.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I think we're heading, you know, in the direction, but cheapening it like that it's not, I don't know, I'm not really a fan of it. When you say things like how we're talking, we look like we're defending it, though. And then you have to kind of come to and be like, well, I'm not defending it. I just have this overlying principle that rules all.
You're defending the principle
and
of it.
It says, you don't go tell people what to do.
Right.
You don't. Especially when you aren't really you. Like I said, you're only you because you were born at a time and a place with a certain upbringing and a certain belief.
You're like
the man with 40
of
less IQ points does not feel the same way that you feel that. You know what I mean? And it's not because he's less moral. It's because he's not as privileged. He doesn't have the IQ, the upbringing, the insulation, the time, the place. What if you were born in 1908?
Right.
They didn't even have animal rights. No one was even thinking about it. And it's okay, you know, that we have it now. And, you know, it's maybe not perfect. It's maybe could be better, whatever. That doesn't matter. The point is, just observe that that is a fact. That you feel like people just overlook that entirely. You know what I mean?
Right.
Overlooking their whole existence is a condition. And it's a condition of, you know what I mean, the nature of everything around them. When you start making these types of, judgments and things like that, it's kind of stupid. You know what I mean? You're kind of moronic. Even if you're right, you're still a moron, because who are you talking to? Yourself. You're only talking to yourself.
Especially when you just post it on the internet. You're just
right.
putting it out in the world, and no one might see it.
Yeah, and you're so sad because you're just seeking stimulation, and you're signaling, which.
Also, if you feel so strongly about it, what are you actually doing?
Right.
You're posting an Instagram comment or a YouTube comment to an NFL superstar?
Yeah, well, and then let me flip it then. If you're going to think one way, then you have to think this way, right? Okay, so say you protest it and I participate in it, right? If my participation if your protesting does nothing to stop it, my participation does nothing to propagate it, does nothing to prolong it.
Right.
And you clearly aren't stopping it. So I'm clearly not, propagating or supporting or whatever it might be, you know what I mean?
Isn't it funny that we read reports when we were there of protests, but it was like seasoned bull runners protest bull runs, and then like you read why, and it's like
it's too safe.
The bulls aren't running fast enough because there's too many weird American people that are there that don't know what they're doing and shit. Like they're getting in the way.
They were protesting its safety. It was funny.
Dude, those dudes are the truth, man. Those serious bull runners that are.
I was hanging on to one on the last day. I think we talked about it. We were there 4 days, ran for 3. The last day I was getting the hang of it. And a technique is to hold the guy next to you, so you kind of move as a pack with the bull. The experienced runner is holding onto the bull, and those around them, if you're worth a shit, you're hanging on. The photos all look like what I thought at first was they were pulling each other down.
Yeah,
like,
it's freaking out.
Then I realized, gripping it it's almost like a rugby scrum, in a sense where, you're holding it to move almost to syncopate. And
kind of like how the bulls do. They're pretty much shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, unless they get segregated. So on that third day, I really caught a stride, and I had a hold of a dude who had a hold of a bull. So I was, one person next to it for several paces. And it was explaining it has just teleported me. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
what were we talking about?
Just the dudes, the OG bull runners, the dudes that do it probably every day, every year.
I forgot what the point was, but there was some Americans there that just went and stood in the street and then stood in the corridors.
Several,
and didn't do
probably not even
shit.
just Americans, because you'll see there's.
We
it's
just
more
talked to
people.
Some Americans, remember?
Right?
Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It's more people seem to be standing on the side than actually running.
Which I did see some dudes get peeled off the wall on the last day.
Which also seems to be the way you get hurt.
Yeah.
Ironically.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that the humans are just as dangerous because they can put you in a position laying on the ground. That's not something that you can easily get out of when there's thousands of people trampling over you or something like that. But I do got to give, just the few that come to mind that show up and just stand there and watch. I give them a little bit more credit than the people that don't go at all, or the people that have something to say about it on the internet. But even that's kind of weird, right?
It definitely is. I mean, I wouldn't blame someone, right? If you got there and you were like, I can't do this.
Or froze.
It's fucking freaky.
When you watch that, we were on the last straightaway on the last days.
Estafeta Street.
Exactly. And standing in mid-street, looking back, when you see that tsunami of people, and you don't see any bulls because
Right.
they're
It's short.
shorter. You see a tsunami of people. I could understand how someone could freeze. I mean, I wouldn't, but I could understand how, there were several types of those people who I could understand would have some reservations. Maybe not been in those types of situations where they kind of get struck and they're just like, again, I watched some videos. I wanted to
Right.
come peep game. Is different than the videos when that herd's coming at your ass.
Dude, just talking about it gets my heart racing and my palms sweaty. I'll probably for the rest of my life, we talked about this. The first visual I saw on the first day when we were running and I turned and saw the pack of bulls over my shoulder, that is an image
Burned, right?
and a feeling. The whole emotional, physical feeling of it is just burned into my brain.
Yeah.
I could tell you the color of the bull.
Yeah.
Like
everything. And it's crazy and I think in life, again, you don't have to fucking do any of this shit, but in life you should burn those images into your brain as much as you possibly can. And I think we talked about it, and this is just an idea I'm going to say out loud because I believe if we put it out into the universe, then it'll start kind of gravitate towards us. But my ideal life, upon my reflection on one of the really late nights in the festival, was that I'd like to create a life where, this sounds funny and it sounds a bit, I don't know how it sounds, so whatever, where I research and locate all of these things in the world
the greatest.
and spend my whole life, or say, don't even say year, whatever, say a year going from one to the other.
So going from like San Fermin to the Chinese New Year, Mardi Gras.
Yeah, every type of wild
festival, ceremony, gathering.
Yeah, and I don't mean to make it sound like only wild, but culturally important, deep, impactful, meaningful types of things. Because it doesn't have to be wild partying tourists. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about something so deeply cultural that it is awe-inspiring and touches you in a strange type of way. I'd like to, I don't know them all, not even close because I'm so stupid, but research all of that and find a way to go a whole year going from one to the next, and just, I don't know, just being, a little bit of a creator. You have to wonder what you'll get out of that, which is basically the thing I wonder about everything. Who am I going to be after this? Is basically what I find myself curious about, which we've talked about curiosity in the past. On the past things, I think maybe we didn't.
What sort of curiosity?
We were like episodes. I thought we were recording when we were talking about curiosity. As far as some people think, when you do things, you're a thrill seeker or what is it called? An adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, but it's not really that.
It's almost like a learning experience, right? You're taking in all these different cultures. I can say that I learned a lot about the Spanish culture just being there for the 4 days.
Yeah.
Some stuff is so different.
Yeah.
Most of it, actually.
Yeah.
Like, something that happened to me, because when we went and saw the bullfights, we actually weren't sitting together.
Right.
Everyone that I was around was having a great time, and everyone that was around them was their best friend.
Yeah.
Even me sitting around probably 24 Spaniard people, I don't really speak that much Spanish, like hardly enough to get through a conversation, and they're passing around food, like cheese and like desserts and meats and just all different types of food.
Yeah.
And like, imagine going to a football game and the dude next to you passing you a hot dog. It would never happen.
Yeah.
Most of the time, at least like I feel like when I go out into a public space and something like that, I'm like,
Kinda
I don't like any of these people around me.
Right.
Like, you have an automatic negative idea about the people around you, or hostile idea, and then they're just treating it like family.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if it's instead of being a little bit of a, an automatic idea, you got to wonder if it's an intuitive energy kind of judgment. If you don't offer, because have you ever had any anomaly experiences where it wasn't like that? A little bit more familial in the scenario, say hypothetically, where someone would offer you a hot dog or you would offer it to someone, because even me being really introverted and I don't get into those situations at all, I do sometimes catch myself getting a good vibe from someone, and then that kind of does click, right? And so instead of being like, here in America we keep to ourselves and everything has to be our own thing, we don't support our elderly. When they get old, we put them in homes. We all, my sister and my brother, all have to each have a car. All these things that are, it's us, me. Have you ever thought, that vibe is almost like a Darwinian innate vibe detector, like an energy detector, where it's always right because you're just surrounded by shitty people.
Right.
You don't want to know. You definitely don't want to waste any life on, but a complete stranger could just pass that test with flying colors.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not
Isn't that
saying that
crazy?
every person that I run into,
But for the most part, right?
But it was like something I've never seen before. Like it was the passing around food. That idea of like breaking bread in a way, you know what I mean?
Do you know where breaking bread comes from?
I don't. Can you break it down for me?
Well, let me tell you, even though I know you know, because every time we sit down to eat, which is several times a week, and we have a loaf of bread, be it at an Italian place or any type of other place, I always ask the table, do you know why they call it breaking bread? And my friends all know because I've said it over 100 times, but I just like that archetype of the old man telling the same story over and over again.
That's you, because you're
60.
Especially
when I'm 90 years old.
Going 10 years.
Yes, so they break it with their hands, because when you're politicking amongst friends, you don't use a knife to cut the food that you and your friends are eating. You don't point the knife. You don't use the knife on, the food.
It shows
because you're amongst your boys.
Okay.
So when you're breaking bread, and I also like the term breaking bread because it means you're splitting up some money.
Okay.
That's the new modern day take on the Bible. I forget. That's the New Testament.
That's the New Testament by Yavid.
I forget that. I forget the passage about breaking bread in the Old Testament. It's not in Ecclesiastes. No, I don't know. I don't know what the passage is offhand, but that is why they call it breaking bread. So it's a little.
So I was breaking bread with the Spaniards.
Yeah.
I'm an honorary Spaniard. Because they would pass me something, and if you didn't want it, you just had to find someone to pass it to.
Yeah, that's another thing that it's a tradition I don't think we have, but I really appreciate it. I was talking to someone the other day about it, and as a kid, I took nothing from no one and accepted nothing from no one. Hated everyone's guts, basically wanted to cut everyone's fucking throat, but as I grew older, way older than I wish than I should have been when I changed my ideas. I should have changed them much younger, but I didn't. I realized it's a big deal to take something when someone gives it to you.
Yeah.
In America, we half expect them or half hope that they don't accept it.
Right.
You give a gift hoping that, but I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said that his church had put together an offering to give to him for something that was going on in his life that he didn't mention to anyone besides in person. He didn't bring it up at the church. anyway, when the pastor, preacher, whatever it may have been, handed him the thing, you know, he was telling me I had to take it because all these people, you know, even though money means nothing, even to these people, it was their intention, and they all pooled together all of their, you know, the intention,
Right.
and they sent it his way, and they weren't around when he even gave it to him, but he said, you know, there's no way I could have sent it back because I would have been sending back the whole thing that they put out. It would be like blocking their energy, you know what I mean?
Right.
As far as, and it could be represented in money or whatever it may have been, but it's almost like, you know, not opening your door to that type of thing or just blocking the whole thing. And the dude was telling me it wasn't anything about money. I didn't want or need money, but there was no way I could have blocked what all of those people were sending my way.
Right.
So I just sent it on to the next person.
Okay.
I didn't even open it. I sent it to the next thing, and that story reminded me of what you were saying. I had a bit different experience at the bullfight. I was sitting next to some American girls, which was disappointing, obviously, because why would I want to sit next to American girls
Right.
when there's 20,000 Spanish girls around me who
Get back on topic, man.
So then behind me is some American dudes, and I'm just thinking, man, why the fuck did they put me in the American section?
Right.
In front of me and to the right of me were Spaniards. So I had and I mean this literally, peace of mind, you know. So it was a real left hemisphere, right hemisphere situation where my right brain was represented by the Spaniards, and I'm being a bit poetic here, but and my left brain was represented by the American crowd around me, and that's no pun intended if you research the left and right brain. But the people behind me, I wish I was in the middle of the plaza with them, gladiator scenario.
Fighting.
Yeah, they were just annoying, kids. Which is sad to say, kids, because they were 22 or 23.
Didn't you say
24.
they got up and left after the bullfight started?
The girls, again, I think the girls were really upset. And as soon as they started stabbing the bull or what it may have been, they all got up and left like, shit, this doesn't look like the photos that
Right.
This isn't why I thought I came. I thought this was a party and drink beer at the Tigers game.
Free sangria.
Right. Cheap sangria, as they
sangria.
say, as a reason to travel across the world. But they thought it was going to be one thing and it was another. And the kids behind me, no, they were just they didn't have any respect for anything that was happening. It was just stupid kid shit, you know what I mean? And you felt like kind of throwing them down in there. They had something to say about the bulls, about the bullfighters, about the people on the horse, about this guy, about that guy, but it was all just like, you're a loser.
Dude, the bull is a seriously, I don't want to say majestic, but an awesome creature, man.
It's crazy.
Because I was thinking about that. I've never seen a bull in real life until I was running with one.
Yeah.
I've seen
isn't that
pictures and
crazy?
movies and whatever, but it's a whole different thing, dude. I felt like a real sort of spiritual connection in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's not a real describable thing, is it?
Ineffable.
Ineffable. I try to remember that word if you didn't know it before. Now you knew.
That's the
So
podcast
this is
word
also
of the day.
educational. Yeah, if you want to know, word of the day is ineffable. Book of the day, kind of just winging it here. I read one this morning called God's Debris, I think by Scott Adams, the guy who made the Dilbert comics.
Okay, yeah, I saw you were reading that the other
Yeah.
day. Right, you had it.
Movie of the day is always the same for me. The Handmaiden, the best
Greatest
movie
movie of the-
made since City of God,
Okay.
which has been 15, 16 years now. Handmaiden is still best movie made. in a long
It's hard to
time.
argue. Well, other than the John Wick franchise.
Yeah, but that's not even a movie, That's a biography.
Okay.
That's a documentary.
About
That's a documentary about me.
okay, David Wick.
Yeah. So
Keep your eyes out for John Wick 4.
yeah, Wick. I'm not sure the lore of what they've instilled into Wick, but Wick is a place in Scotland.
Yeah, we were gonna try to go there when we were there last time on
Yeah.
tour.
Yeah,
Way up
it's-
north,
it's
right?
Not, yeah. It's not all the way North Highlands, tip of the Highlands where my crew is from, but it's higher than, more north than where most people go, which is just Glasgow
Yeah.
or Edinburgh or something. They don't go above that really. Not too many there's a lot of old town roads up there.
Dude,
That's
you
where
haven't
have
even
you
heard
ever-
the song
I know, but have you ever
Wasn't
seen
it?
The Highlander?
with
It's an older movie.
yeah.
I believe they shot a lot of that in the Highlands. Braveheart.
Braveheart.
Would be
Of course.
but the Highlander is just the Highlander, named the Highlander. In case you didn't pick up on it,
Because he's from the Highlands.
it's good. Not as good as The Handmaiden.
Well, there you go. If you've never seen The Handmaiden,
If you've never seen Park Chan-wook's The Handmaiden,
if you've never seen
you
The Highlander,
know what the best movie around is. So, thanks for tuning in to Movie Recommendation Hour. This is a dude who is not qualified at all.
and dude who might actually be a little qualified.
Exactly. Telling you what to do, as most people that are not qualified do. So, that must be our cue to
Just hit the button, man.